Thank you. Good morning, Yonkers. Oh, it's a better morning than that. Good morning, Yonkers. How's our new mayor doing, Mike Spano? Let's give him a round of applause. He is doing great. I worked with Mike, as you heard, last year. We worked together. I don't know if I should draw any connection from the fact that Mike and I spent a few months together, and Mike decided to leave Albany and go to Yonkers immediately. I hope it wasn't a reflection on me, Mike. He was a phenomenal legislator, very collegial, got a lot of good work done when he was in Albany. He's going to be an extraordinary, extraordinary mayor. It was my pleasure to support him in his race, in the campaign. I'm excited about what he's going to do. I'm excited about what we can do together. I'm excited about the partnership between Yonkers and the state, new leadership for Yonkers, new leadership for the state, for a new future for Yonkers. And that's what this is all about. Mayor Mike Spano. You have the chairman of the legislature, Ken Jenkins, who's here. Give him another round of applause. County Clerk Tim Iadoni, a great friend for a long time. Where are you, Tim? You have the best district attorney in the state of New York in Janet DiFiore. She is a superstar. I'd also like to acknowledge Paul Ryan, who's here from the Westchester Putnam Labor Council. Good to be with you, Paul. Ross Pepe from the Construction Industry Council. Good to be with you also, Ross. I am a one-year-old governor, not actually 1 year old, but 1 year old as governor. I actually look much older than I did last year. All these bags, all these lines. This is all 1 year. At this rate, I'm going to be 90 by the end of my first term. But in the beginning of the year, the governor gives what's called the State of the State message and then a budget message. The President of the United States gives the State of the Union address, which will be in a few days, and then a budget message. And the State of the State, the State of the Union, is just what the words sound like. What is the state of the state? The mayor will do the state of the city. What is the condition of the state? What is the condition of the city? What's the condition of the country? And what is your vision, your plan for taking the city, the state, the country forward? The budget is then the specifics of that vision. So State of the State is the big picture. And then the budget says, how do you actually do it? What are the numbers? What are the steps to get there? I did my State of the State 2 weeks ago. Yesterday, we announced the budget. And now this is my opportunity to explain to you what we're planning to do, what we're hoping to do, and to get you involved. We call it Building a New New York. And to go back quickly and refresh where we were last year. Last year, when we did the State of the State, we said the state was at a crossroads, that we had tremendous pain all across the state, that New Yorkers were really hurting. They had a lot of problems, primarily because of the economy. And the government was not in a position to help because, as the mayor said, the government, the state government in Albany was corrupt. There was scandals. It was partisan. There was gridlock. And more than just the government not working, the state itself was divided. We were divided upstate from downstate, millionaires from the middle class, gay and straight. We were divided along party lines. We had a terrible state deficit, $10 billion. But not only did the state have a fiscal deficit, some ways even worse, it had a trust deficit, a performance deficit, and an integrity deficit. So we had a situation where people had real problems. And the government that was supposed to be in a position to help didn't have the credibility or capacity to help. We said that we had a choice to make. We could either remain dysfunctional and divided, or we could come together and reestablish our government and rebuild our state and move forward. And we did make the right choice. We chose to begin to change the very culture of Albany. We put people first rather than the special interests. We started to rebuild trust. We had the most successive legislative session last year in modern political history. We did a lot of work last year. Maybe that's why Mike left. We closed the $10 billion deficit. We did it on time. We enacted the first ever property tax cap. We closed 3,800 prison beds in upstate prisons that we didn't need. We eliminated the MTA payroll tax, which was very tough on small businesses. We passed the toughest rent regulations in 30 years to protect tenants. We launched the New York Open for Business campaign to bring business back to New York. We passed an affordable energy policy. We provided desperately needed flood relief for the parts of the state that were significantly damaged by Hurricane Irene and Storm Lee. We passed ethics reform to clean up Albany, and we attacked chronic high unemployment among inner-city disadvantaged youth with the first ever jobs program targeted to minority youth. We also had two historic achievements, one in the area of social justice and one in economic justice. In social justice, we made history, and we led the nation when we passed marriage equality for all New Yorkers. But we didn't stop there, because for decades we had an economic justice problem in an unfair tax code. Under the old tax code, whether you made $20,000 or $20 million, you paid the same tax rate in the state of New York, believe it or not. I mean, it was incredible when you think about it. It was just wrong. It couldn't be explained. And we took that on and we brought fairness to New York. Very simple principle. The more you make, the higher the rate you pay. And we gave middle-class homeowners, middle-class taxpayers who have been struggling for too long, a tax cut where you now pay, if you're between $40,000 and $300,000, which is most New Yorkers, you pay the lowest taxes in 58 years, believe it or not. Now, 58 years was a really, really long time ago, and for some of the young people who are in the audience, it's hard to even fathom what 58 years ago was all about. It was 1953. Gasoline was 29 cents a gallon, 1953. Elvis was registering for the draft. Jackie Robinson played second base for the Brooklyn Dodgers. First Corvette, 1953. One of the most important accomplishments that year. Me, I was just a twinkle in my father's eye back then. But he had a double twinkle, my father, because he had a plan all along for me. 2011 was a successful year for the state. We accomplished much, but we've only just begun. And now this year is the year where the state really has to get to work building a new New York. We have big problems, there's no doubt, like Yonkers. But we also have big solutions. So we have a three-part plan. First is get the economy going. Second is fix the government. And third is honor the New York progressive legacy and the progressive history. Let's begin by building on our economic strength. New York is a destination location. We have to get people to come to New York. Tourists spent $50 billion in 2010. It's one of the largest industries for this state is tourism. We have to stay ahead of the competition to stay competitive. Convention centers are important economic generators because people come to see big shows, tourists follow the shows, and they bring money to the entire state. Right now, we have the Jacob Javits Convention Center in Manhattan, which is outdated and is too small, and on the list of convention centers nationwide, we're actually number 12th in terms of size. It's just too small, and we can't compete. It was opened in the 80s. Some people say it was outdated before it even opened, but it's certainly not competitive now. My plan is to build the largest convention center in the nation, period. Let's do it. We can do it. We want to make a partner in a $4 billion private investment at Aqueduct Racetrack. It will create tens of thousands of jobs. It will give New York the #1 convention center in the nation. New York will go from number 12 to number 1, which is right where it belongs. That convention center will be a magnet for the entire state. We also have to get serious about economic development, which we started last year. We have a macro New York Open for Business campaign, but we also are focusing on micro enterprise and microeconomic development region by region, because there really is no one state economy. The state is really broken into regions, and we're focusing on regional economic development all across the state. We put together regional councils that worked extraordinarily well. We did awards to regional councils, and we now want to replicate what was a very successful launch with this program with a second round for $200 million. Another great economic generator for the state could be casino gaming. When it comes to gaming and casinos, we are in a state of denial, meaning if you ask people, do we have casinos in New York, they will say no. We don't have casinos in New York. In reality, we all but have casinos in New York. We have casinos that are run by Native American tribes. Why? Take a step back. Currently in the New York State Constitution, it is unconstitutional to have a casino. So, Native American tribes can operate a casino in the state because it's separate land and the law allows them to do it. So we have casinos in the state that are run by Native American tribes. We also have racinos in the state, meaning what? Because we couldn't do casinos, we designed something called racinos. What is a racino? It's a casino with an R. That's what it is. They are electronic machines rather than table games with a live dealer. But they are gambling. And you can play the same exact games that you play in a regular casino in a racino. And we have racinos all across the state. Now, we don't realize it, we don't regulate it, we don't capitalize it, but we have gaming. It goes on all the time. As a matter of fact, we have 29,000 electronic gaming machines in New York, more than in Atlantic City, believe it or not. So let's amend the Constitution. Let's call them what they are. Let's regulate them right. Let's regulate them properly. Let's tax them correctly. Let's get the revenue for our state. And let's protect our people. Let's pass a constitutional amendment that allows casinos, recognize the reality, and regulate them for what they are. We believe it's $1 billion to the state. We also have a great opportunity to rebuild New York because, look, we need jobs, right? We need to get the economy moving, but we also need to be competitive, and we also need the state to be safe. Now is the time to rebuild the state's infrastructure. We need to do it anyway. 32% of the bridges are rated deficient, 40% of the roads, 83% of the state parks and dams need serious work. You want to stimulate the economy? You want to give people jobs? Do the work you need to do anyway to keep the state safe and competitive, and that's infrastructure. We want to take a new approach to doing the work that streamlines it, and we have a very aggressive rebuilding program. We want to improve over 100 bridges statewide, 23 bridges in the Hudson Valley, including bridges along the Sprainbrook Parkway, Newburgh Beacon Bridge, Route 9, Route 17, Route 52, Route 311. 2,000 miles of roads, 30 miles in Westchester, 30 miles in Ulster, 88 municipal water systems, 7 in the Hudson Valley, 48 state parks, including 12 projects in the Hudson Valley. We need to do the work. Let's do it now. 114 flood control projects. We also need to build a new power system in the state of New York. You want to build the economy, you want to grow the economy, you need energy to supply the economy. Let's build an energy highway system all across the state. When you look at the state, you have great supplies of energy in upstate New York. North Country, right by the Canada border, you have possibilities for cheap, what they call hydropower from Quebec. You have abundant energy supplies in western New York. You have tremendous need in the downstate area, metropolitan area, but you have no way to get the power from upstate to downstate. Let's invite the private sector companies in, let them build an energy highway from the north to the south. We'll create jobs in building the infrastructure. We'll also have the available power to do the economic development where we need to do it, and now is the time to do it. Eisenhower built a highway grid all across the country that opened up this country to commerce. This energy grid is going to be the equivalent of the highway grid in the 50s. We believe that private sector companies will invest $2 billion of their money to build the energy grid, and it will help our economy, and it's something we want to get going this year. When you add up all these projects, we're looking at about $25 billion in economic activity for the state of New York. Second, we have to make the government work. Mike was in Albany. The government is an antiquated government set up at a different time. That's why we have that old car. That is not me driving the car. I am old, but even I am not that old. We have to make the government work better, and we can't do it by raising taxes because New Yorkers are paying enough taxes. There is no more money in their pocket to pay taxes to the state of New York, period. We need mandate relief for local governments. The state is very good at telling local governments what they need to do without providing the funding. We're going to propose sweeping mandate relief to relieve the burdens from local government so they can reduce property taxes. Medicaid, which is one of the major cost drivers for local governments, currently has a cap on it, where the counties are paying 3% of the growth in Medicaid year to year. In this budget, we propose dropping the 3% cap over 3 years to 0 so that counties will be held harmless on their Medicaid payments, and that will allow them to stay within the property tax cap and actually reduce property taxes going forward. If Medicaid is the number one item for mandate relief, the second item are the pensions that we pay public employees. This, my friends, is just economically unsustainable. We pay public pensions that are going up at a rate of 185% from 2009 to 2015. We need to create a new level of pensions. We need to adjust the pension system. We're announcing a new what's called the Tier 6 system, which will have a progressive contribution rate of 4%, 5%, and 6%, depending on the salary of the employee. There'll be a share in the risk-reward of the pension system. And we also need to end some of the pension abuses that are in the current system. I was Attorney General before I was governor, and I investigated cases where people inflated their earnings in the last 2 years, to artificially bump up the level of their pension that they would be paid for the rest of the years. That was not the intention of the pension system. It's not following the law or the spirit of the law, and we need to end those abuses today because the taxpayers just can't afford it anymore. Remember, when we're talking about pension reform, it only applies to future union workers. No current union employee would be impacted. Whatever the deal we have today is the deal we have today. But That doesn't mean we have to live with that deal in the future for people who we haven't met, we haven't hired, we haven't even interviewed. Let's change the future deals so the out-year costs are not unsustainable. We must also focus on what I believe is the most important job for me, what I believe is the most important job for the mayor and every elected official that is sitting in this office today, and that is the public education system. Now, I went to school my first year as governor. I learned a few lessons, showing you're never too old to learn, right? The most important lesson I learned last year was about the public education system and how public education actually works in Albany. I learned that everybody in Albany has a lobbyist, fancy, high-priced lobbyist. And with the lobbyist comes a public relations specialist, government organization specialist, a whole team of pros. Everyone has one. Superintendents in the public education system, they have one. Principals have lobbyists. Teachers have lobbyists. School boards have lobbyists. Maintenance personnel, they have lobbyists. Bus drivers, they have many lobbyists. You know the only group in Albany who doesn't have a lobbyist? Students. That is exactly right. And that has to stop because education... So this year I'm going to take a second job. I'm going to be governor part-time. And part-time I'm going to be the official student lobbyist in Albany. There's my new door with my new title already on my new door. Because look, we have to sometimes step back and refocus. The purpose of the public education system is to help children grow and learn. The public education system was not an employment program for adults. It was an education program for children, and we have to get back to that. Public education is now run like a business. It's all about the numbers, but it's not a business. It's not about the business of education. It's about achievement in education. And that perspective will then change what you do. We spend more money than any state in the nation on education. We spend more money per pupil than any state in the nation. And we are number 38 in terms of graduation rates. How can that be? Because everything has been about the business. It's all been about the money. And it hasn't been about the student, and it hasn't been about the achievement. That's what has to change. That's the reform we have to change. That is a new attitude. That is a new culture. That's going to be a transformation of the education system. Focus on student achievement. We need a real teacher evaluation system so we know what works and what doesn't work. We need real accountability and efficiency in management, and we need a management evaluation system so we know what works. Let's find out what works. Let's replicate what works. Let's reward the teachers who are doing well and the superintendents and managers who are doing well. Let's get the ones who aren't the help they need, and let the students know what schools are performing, what classrooms are performing, and what help they need. This is a mission, my friends, that we just simply cannot fail at. And it's a mission that we can't tolerate. The abuse and status quo and stagnation that has gone on for years in this area. We have been talking about this for decades. Decades. But the bureaucracy has been more interested in protecting the bureaucracy than making the changes that needed to be made in the bureaucracy to actually serve the student, and that's what's going to change this year in Albany. New York has also had a proud history as the progressive capital, meaning what? Meaning New York has always been the state that came up with the best innovations, that solved problems first, and then all the other states looked to New York, and New York followed, figured it out, and they followed New York's example. There is an adjustment that we can make, there's an innovation that we can make in the area of criminal justice that will be the first in the nation by expanding the DNA Databank. We now can take DNA, which is a genetic fingerprint, which has revolutionized criminal justice. And it can help find people who are guilty. It can help exonerate people who are innocent. It just tells the truth. We want to expand the DNA Databank to cover all crimes. So we would have a DNA Databank from all crimes. We believe it's going to help on the prosecution side and on the exoneration side. It's already made significant advancements in New York. We have to get this done this year. Your district attorney is a champion for this. She's been working very hard all across the state. And I believe, if I know Janet DiFiore, she's going to get it done. Let's expand the DNA Databank. The SUNY system, if we have to work on elementary education, the SUNY system is a precious asset for the state. SUNY is a working families college, and we have to make sure that it is affordable and that it is a quality education. What SUNY says is it keeps the dream of the American dream alive. You can go to public schools and you can be anything you want. We're working on elementary schools. The SUNY system has to be improved. We're going to have a new round of what we call New York SUNY 2020, where 60 campuses will compete for $20 million awards for academic excellence and economic development in that region. It's an investment in SUNY, but it's worth it because it's an investment in the future. 1 in 6 children still live in homes without enough food. Can you believe that? With all the progress in this great state, 1 in 6 children in homes without enough food. Right now, we fingerprint for federal food stamps in some part of the state. That is a prohibition or an impediment for some people who don't want to go through what they consider the intrusive nature of fingerprinting. I understand that fingerprinting can stop fraud. I also understand that there are other ways that you can stop fraud. And when you have a situation where children are living in homes without enough food, and people could qualify for food stamps, but find the fingerprinting an impediment, I say let's stop fingerprinting, let's get the food to the children, and we'll fight fraud other ways. We need campaign finance reform. We need to make our campaigns the cleanest campaigns in the country and restore confidence and pride. We have a government that we can be proud of in New York now. We need campaigns that we can be proud of. Let's have elections that we're proud to participate in. Now, my last point is this. How do we get this done? Well, change comes when you make it happen. I've been in Albany for 1 year, and Albany could be a beltway town. There's an expression for state capitals. They talk about Washington, D.C., and that there is a loop, a beltway around Washington, D.C. A lot of capitals, they'll talk about the beltway mentality, the loop mentality, meaning what? Meaning around the government, the special interests gather. That's where the government is. That's where decisions are being made. So the special interests flock to the site of government. And you go to the Capitol building in Albany, which I invite you all to. It is a magnificent building. We're restoring it. It is really special and worth seeing. But in the Capitol, you get all the lobbyists you saw on the screen, all the lawyers, all the special interests. They all come to Albany. That's the power. That's where the legislators are. That's where the decision makers are. And that town then develops a culture unto itself. And the legislators are under a lot of pressure. I'm trying to make changes. Special interests are trying to stop the changes. Why? Because they are vested in this system. These bureaucracies don't just develop. They develop over time by very powerful interests that design a system that serves their interest. It took a lot of money to put that system together. It took a lot of time to put that system together. It took a lot of cups of coffee and dinners and lawyers to put that system together. And now a governor comes along and says, I'm going to reform the system. I want to put the student first. I want to flip everything. I want to do this. I want to do that. And the special interests say, no, you're not. Special interests grab the legislators and say, stay close to me. I'm your friend. I can help you. You like me and I like you. Let's go to dinner. Don't listen to that governor. He's bad. That governor's bad. He wears funny clothes, too. If the conversation is held within the beltway, within the loop, I lose. You lose. Because if it's all about the special interests, they're not giving up. And they're not changing. They're making a lot of money with everything just the way it is. You know how we change it? You change it. Why? Because you have the ultimate power. You know where the ultimate power is? Right here. See that? Put your hand up. Do this. You know what that is? Ultimate power. That's all it takes to vote. It's all it takes to flick the lever. And that is ultimate power. And those legislators know ultimate power. They do. You can ask Mike. They know ultimate power. And they know you have it, and they know that's it. You also have power in your fingertips. You want change in Albany? Email your legislator. Pick up the phone and dial the number. And say, I saw this in the paper, I saw the governor's presentation, I'm tired of the school system where the students are second, and I'm tired of hearing about the public education system failing and there's nothing we can do about it. I want to change, then I want to change now, and remember me. This is me. If you do what you need to do, we will get this passed. If you stand up and make your voice heard, this will pass. Democracy works. It works when you make it work. I believe, with every fiber in my being, that we made great progress last year. We really did. We cleaned up Albany. We cleaned up the budget. We made a lot of big reform moves. This is going to take it to the next level. This will be the most fundamental, powerful redesign of education and reform of education in 20 or 30 years. It will revolutionize the system. A real teacher evaluation system, so we know what teachers are doing well, what teachers are not doing well, what schools are doing well, what schools are failing, and we can make real decisions for a student. Real pension reform, so we can get the taxes down, so we get more businesses to this state and we get more jobs. This will revolutionize the state. And you can make it happen. And it's not hard. It's just you getting involved. And I believe this state has all the potential in the world. And I believe we haven't even tapped it yet. I spent 8 years in Washington. During that time, I worked in every state in the nation. Literally, every state in the nation. I was in the Clinton administration. And I saw everything else that is out there. I saw the natural beauty of the states. I saw their capitals. I saw their governments. Nobody has what we have in New York. Nobody has what we have in New York. Nobody has the geography, the diversity, the academic institutions, the healthcare institutions. Nobody has it. We have it all. The one thing we haven't had is a government as good as the people of this state. And that's going to change this year, and you're going to make it happen. Thank you, and God bless you.